when you rotate it next time, you may actually find a situation where Mumbai city may become a tribal constituency, and the tribal constituency itself may be a general constituency. And therefore, for a general candidate to represent those areas on the principle of rotation itself may look a little odd, and for the tribal candidates to represent the Mumbai constituency may look a little odd. These are some aberrations which may also come by virtue of the rotation principle, if the rotation principle were to apply in each and every situation. Therefore, we've considered avoiding the rotation for this particular occasion. Sir, Saralaji made a very impressive speech. I'm not referring to several other aspects which Shri Pranab Mukherjee and Mr. Gautam have referred to, but one issue which she raised, which does not arise under this bill, but it certainly does arise in relation to another legislation which we have introduced and which we are considering. She mentioned that we are now trying to find to the problem of corrupt practices in elections, use of money power in Rajya Sabha elections by abandoning the principle of secrecy of voting itself. Sir, let me say this, that we've always preferred the secret method of voting. In a parliamentary or a legislative election, you always have a secret method of voting. But let me remove this misconception. There is no such concept that secrecy of a ballot under all circumstances is some part of the basic features of an electoral process. Voting in this house takes place by a process which is anything but secret. When elected representatives elect others, when we elect committees, when we vote on a resolution, we don't vote by a secrecy principle. In fact, in an issue relating to one present sitting member of this house, Mr. Tora, the Supreme Court had an occasion to consider, and I'm mentioning this even though it doesn't consider this bill, it considers a bill which a standing committee headed by Shri Pranab Mukherjee is considering, where a vote in a Rajya Sabha election was shown. And this itself was the basis of a challenge. I'll just read two sentences to obviate this impression that you have. And the Supreme Court said in Mr. Tora's case, if the very secrecy of the ballot, instead of ensuring free and fair elections, strikes at the root of the principle of free and fair elections, this basic postulate of democracy would be utilized for undoing free and fair elections, and which provide the lifeblood to the parliamentary democracy. If secrecy of ballot instead of ensuring free and fair election is used, as is done in this case, to defeat the very purpose for which it is enacted, it is to suppress a wrong coming to light and to protect a fraud on the election process, or even to defend a crime, that is forgery of ballot paper, this principle of secrecy of ballot will have to yield to a larger principle of free and fair election. That is to say, if secrecy is going to breed corruption, then transparency perhaps may be an answer to this. And that is the principle, and therefore there is no such principle that secrecy under all circumstances will be a virtue and transparency will be a negation of the electoral process itself.
ये तरीका नहीं है जो
देखिए अगर
मुश्किल है, मैं उपाध्यक्ष जी चाहूंगी कि इस तरह के बयान न दिए जाए।
सॉरी,
यहाँ तर हम लोग किस लिए बैठे हैं? यहाँ पर कोई एक दूसरे के लिए हाथ उठाने, चीजों को समझने के लिए बैठे हैं, विचार करने के लिए बैठे हैं। तो विचार की प्रक्रिया जारी रहनी चाहिए। ये इस तरह के कमेंट न करें तो अच्छा रहेगा।
मैं सरला जी केवल इस विषय को इसलिए उठा रहा था,
कार्रवाई से विलोपित कर दिया जा रहा है।
मैं इस विषय को केवल इसलिए उठा रहा था कि आपने कहा कि अब हम इस स्थिति में पहुंच गए हैं कि हमें सीक्रेसी को छोड़ने की नौबत आ रही है, जिसके अपने कई प्रश्न उठेंगे। सीक्रेसी के बहुत गुण हैं, लेकिन सीक्रेसी के कुछ अवगुण भी हम लोगों को मिल रहे हैं, और इसलिए जब वो बिल इस सदन के अंदर आएगा, क्योंकि इस विषय पे हम लोग तब चर्चा करेंगे, मैंने केवल छोटा सा उत्तर इसलिए देने की आवश्यकता समझी कि आपने इस विषय को उठाया कि सीक्रेसी कोई इलेक्टोरल प्रोसेस का निगेशन है, ये अनिवार्य नहीं है। मैं केवल इतना कह रहा था। सर
आप तायद कर रहे हैं वो ये है, मैंने इस बात को इसलिए कहा कि मुझे कहने की जरूरत इसलिए पड़ रही है कि आप जो हमारे अवगुण हैं, जो हमारी कमियां हैं, हमारी कमियों को हम ढकने के लिए दूसरा एक रास्ता इख्तियार करेंगे। वो इसके पहले जरूरी है कि हम अपनी कमियों को दूर करें, अपने को सुधारें। आप भ्रष्टाचार को दूर करने के लिए आप कह रहे हैं कि साहब जो एक पद्धति चली आ रही है, जिसको स्वीकृत एक नियम माना जा रहा है, उसको आप खत्म कर रहे हैं।
सर, there were several questions, three important issues which were raised by Shri Pranab Mukherjee. He mentioned that there would be a marginal increase as far as the number of scheduled caste constituencies is concerned. As I mentioned, that with the inclusion of the Neo-Buddhist in the scheduled caste list as an effect of the 1990 Constitution Amendment Order, this would be more felt in Maharashtra. Maybe there is a marginal impact in any other state because of natural incremental increase in population or otherwise. So you wanted to note that we must avoid a situation, in fact, where a Lok Sabha constituency today may fall within two different states. Some assembly constituencies, the problem may also have arisen in the case of division of the states. And Shri Yadav made a suggestion that constituencies should not be in more than two districts, he said. In fact, they should not be in more than one district normally. And to obviate such a situation, the legislation itself gives guidelines. And the guidelines which we say, the guidelines can't be by a rule of thumb, but they give an indication to the Delimitation Commission. The first guideline itself is that all constituencies shall, as far as practicable, be geographically compact areas, and in delimiting them, regard shall be had to the physical features, existing boundaries of administrative units, that's a district, facilities of communication and public convenience. So one of the first guideline itself is that as far as possible, keep it within a particular district, unless it's unavoidable that a Lok Sabha constituency falls into more than one district itself. So with regard to the time I had mentioned, the last Delimitation Commission had taken 4 years. It had taken 4 years because the number of seats itself increased. The second factor was that you had to make equitably distribute the seats in a particular manner. This time it's obvious that this won't take so much time for two reasons. The number of seats in every state remain the same. The total number of the electorate is known from the census figures, and you have to broadly equally divide the electorate, particularly because computers are now available, and therefore this may be a far easier exercise. Since this will be the first exercise of delimitation that we will be doing with all these facilities available, there is no clear-cut idea about how much time that we will take. But this 2 years that we mentioned is the outer limit of that time, and I am sure that it will be reasonably possible to do it within that 2 year period. Maybe perhaps in a little over a year we should be able to do it, so that we are able to notify it much before the next general elections, so that political parties and candidates know what the size and shape of the constituencies itself can be. Sir, a question has been raised as to whether it would be better to have only a sitting Supreme Court judge headed. Sir, why we have given it, we would certainly prefer to have a sitting Supreme Court judge, but why we have given a flexibility between a sitting or a retired Supreme Court judge? Because normally for a commission which takes a year or two to be completed, Supreme Court is reluctant because of their own workload to spare a sitting judge, and that is the reason we've kept this element of flexibility as far as this factor is concerned. Gufran Sahab made a suggestion that we should add in the language that what would happen if a member ceases to be a member of the House, so he has to cease to be an associate member. Sir, I don't think any specific clarification is required, because under clause 5, it is very clear that the Speaker can nominate only a member of the House. Now, this is a practice, which is a settled practice, that we send members to various bodies, various societies and others where members of parliament are also represented. The moment they lose their membership, the membership where they have been nominated by virtue of it also goes, and a fresh new member has to be elected by the House or selected by the Speaker and has to be sent. Sir, several other questions have been raised. I am not referring to each one of them, but Dr. Maitreyan had mentioned a point that states which have controlled the population through effective implementation must be given a premium of membership. Sir, I think states which have successfully implemented must be given incentives in various forms. But really the principle of equal representation, or each vote has the same weightage, ought not to be disturbed in the process of giving an incentive. There can be many other disincentives the governments can consider, but the value of each vote really has to remain the same. And you cannot have a greater representation in one state and barely because of effective implementation of... Well, I think we'll leave this problem for the generation in 2026 to consider this. With these few words, sir, I commend to this House that this bill... Sir, I have checked up the earlier legislations also. Even in the past, Rajya Sabha members have not been associated in the process of delimitation, not because they don't include Rajya Sabha member, but the rationale that I could find out was that Rajya Sabha members are elected by the state legislators. The Lok Sabha members are elected directly by the people. And therefore, you have a representation of the Lok Sabha members, you also have a representation of the states. Therefore, if you gave Rajya Sabha members also a representation, there will be two categories of representation to the states which is being given, and only one category of representation which is being given to those elected in the Lok Sabha. That is probably the reason that this has never been done in the past, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
उपाध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं माननीय मंत्री जी से एक जानकारी चाहूँगा कि आपने जो रोटेशन के संबंध में अभी कहा कि अगर ऐसी जगह रोटेशन में सीट आ गई जहाँ एसटी या एससी के वोटर्स नहीं हैं और वो रोटेशन के अंदर एसटी या एससी के कैंडिडेट की आ गई तो एक अजीब स्थिति बनेगी। इसका एक दूसरा पहलू भी है माननीय मंत्री जी कि जो सीटें रिजर्व है वहाँ 20%, 25% या 30% एससी या एससी के वोटर्स हैं, 70%, 65%, 75%, 80% दूसरे वोटर भी हैं और उन वोटरों को भी चुनाव लड़ने का अधिकार है, लेकिन वो रिजर्व होने की वजह से एक लंबे समय से क्या उनके चुनाव लड़ने के अधिकार का हनन नहीं हो रहा है? और ये बात कहकर हम कब तक और कितने साल उन वोटरों को चुनाव लड़ने के अधिकार का हनन करेंगे? क्यों कि जो कंसेंसस की बात इसमें कभी नहीं बन सकती और इसलिए नहीं बन सकती कि जो सांसद हैं वो कभी नहीं चाहेंगे कि उनकी सीट एसटी या एससी की जनरल हो, जो जनरल हैं वो कभी नहीं चाहेंगे कि रोटेशन में उनकी सीट एसटी या एससी की हो जाए। तो इसमें आप क्या विचार रखते हैं, कैसे इस चीज को ठीक करेंगे?
सर, कोई भी व्यवस्था ऐसी नहीं है जो बिल्कुल आदर्श हो और जिसमें कोई किसी प्रकार की समस्या ना हो। मैंने एक उदाहरण आपको दिया था कि जिसमें मुंबई या दिल्ली ट्राइबल कंस्टिट्यूएंसी बन जाएगी और ट्राइबल कंस्टिट्यूएंसी में जनरल कैटेगरी होगी। एक दूसरी समस्या जो गौतम जी बोल रहे थे तो उन्होंने कही कि कई बार लोग जब रोटेशन की संभावना ज़्यादा होती है तो कंस्टिट्यूएंसी को मैंने अगली बार चुनाव नहीं लड़ना इसलिए मैं कितना नरिश करूंगा, ये भी उनके सामने एक प्रश्न आ जाता है। ये स्वाभाविक है, लेकिन डीलिमिटेशन के इस सिद्धांत में जहां एससी और एसटी का है, एसटी के कंस्टिट्यूएंसीज वहां रिजर्व होंगी जहां एसटी की पॉपुलेशन सबसे अधिक है। लार्जेस्ट शब्द यूज किया है। मैं
कितने साल और उन्हें चुनाव नहीं लड़ना, उनके अधिकारों का हनन।
इन दो व्यवस्था
एससी और एसटी का विरोध करता है, शर्म की बात है।
आजा बैठिए। बैठिए जमुना जी।
हुआ इस तरह से आप क्या कर रहे हो? जो आदमी अपने उद्गार अगर यहाँ आके नहीं सुनाएगा तो किस लिए ना ये आता है?
अध्यक्ष जी, जो मैंने पहला उत्तर दिया था जिन माननीय सदस्यों ने
गलत समझ गई, मैं बात रोटेशन की कर रहा हूँ।
ठीक है, बैठिए आप।
उनको रोटेट की जाए ताकि दूसरों को भी मौका मिले। माननीय सदस्यता के उसमें सदस्य।
अध्यक्ष जी, मैंने सबसे पहले ये कहा था कि इस व्यवस्था में इसमें से कौन सी व्यवस्था चुनी जाए, रोटेशन की चुनी जाए या ना चुनी जाए, इस पे सभी दलों में एक आम राय नहीं है। दलों के भीतर भी आम राय नहीं है। स्वाभाविक है कि मेरे भी कुछ सहयोगी हो सकता है मेरे दल में जो ये विचार रखे कि रोटेशन करनी चाहिए, और इसलिए इन दोनों व्यवस्थाओं में से जो हमें सबसे बेहतर लगी है कि फिलहाल क्योंकि रोटेशन के ऊपर एक आम राय नहीं है और वो संभव नहीं है, तो जो आज की मौजूदा व्यवस्था है उसी को हम लोग आगे चलाएं।
Since I am from Pondicherry, I raised the question. In the Government of Union Territories Act, there is a delimitation of constitutions. Article section 32 and section 43A is applicable.
Sir, I'm sorry, I should have answered this in the first instance itself. With regard to the Union Territories, where there is a special Government of Union Territories Act, that's a special legislation. And the delimitation is done under the special legislation for those Union Territories under that Act itself.
Okay. The question is that the Delimitation Bill 2002 as passed by the Lok Sabha be taken into consideration. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We shall now take up clause by clause consideration of the bill. Clauses 2 to 12 stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Clauses 2 to 12 are adopted. Clause 1, the enacting formula and the title stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Clause 1, the enacting formula and title are adopted. Shri Arun Jaitley to move.
Sir, I move that the bill be passed.
Motion moved that the bill be passed. The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The bill is passed. Now the Sugar Development Fund Amendment Bill 2000. The allotted time is 1 hour. Shri Shanta Kumar to move a motion for consideration of Sugar Development Fund Amendment Bill 2002.
महोदय, मैं ये प्रस्ताव करता हूँ कि चीनी विकास निधि अधिनियम 1982 में और संशोधन करने वाले विधेयक जिस रूप में उसे लोकसभा द्वारा पारित किया गया है पर विचार किया जाए। महोदय, मैं केवल संक्षेप में 2 बातें कहना चाहता हूँ। ये बहुत छोटा सा संशोधन लेकिन अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण संशोधन है। इस संशोधन के द्वारा जो शुगर डेवलपमेंट फंड है उसमें हम ये संशोधन करना चाहते हैं कि उस फंड में से 3 बातों के लिए हम शुगर इंडस्ट्री में सहयोग कर सकें, लोन कर सकें। आज शुगर इंडस्ट्री इस प्रकार की इंडस्ट्री है कि जिसमें हमारे पास लगभग कुल मिलाकर के 180 लाख टन चीनी के भंडार हो गए हैं। जो स्थिति अन्न में, फूड ग्रेन में है, लगभग वैसी स्थिति बन गई है। शुगर साइकिल टूट गया है। चौथा वर्ष हमारे उत्पादन का। आवश्यकता इस बात की है कि चीनी एक्सपोर्ट हो। एक्सपोर्ट शुरू की 12-13 लाख टन चीनी एक्सपोर्ट हुई है, लेकिन विश्व के बहुत से देश सब्सिडाइज करते हैं इस हद तक कि हमारी चीनी विश्व बाज़ार में कम्पिटिटिव नहीं हो पाती है। इसलिए इस संशोधन के द्वारा हम चीनी एक्सपोर्ट करने वाली मिलों को इंटरनल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और फ्रेट के लिए सब्सिडाइज करेंगे। हमारे पास शुगर डेवलपमेंट फंड में पैसा है, उस धन से जब सब्सिडाइज करेंगे तो शुगर एक्सपोर्ट करना उनको बहुत आसान हो जाएगा। दूसरा, शुगर इंडस्ट्री के लिए और अधिक आवश्यक ये है कि जो बाई प्रोडक्ट प्रोडक्शन है उसको प्रोत्साहन दिया जाए। आज भारत सरकार ने एक महत्वपूर्ण निर्णय लिया है कि पेट्रोल में 5% एथेनॉल मिलाया जाएगा। तो एथेनॉल बनाने के लिए शुगर डेवलपमेंट फंड से हम लोन देंगे। आज के एक्ट के मुताबिक एथेनॉल बनाने के लिए लोन नहीं दिया जा सकता। ये दूसरा महत्वपूर्ण संशोधन के द्वारा हम इस बात को करना चाहते हैं। तीसरा, को जनरेशन। शुगर इंडस्ट्री 3500 मेगावाट बिजली पैदा कर सकती है और शुगर इंडस्ट्री जो बिजली पैदा करेगी एनवायरनमेंट फ्री होगी, सस्ती होगी। अन्य साधनों से जो बिजली पैदा की जाती है वो महंगी होगी। यदि 3500 मेगावाट बिजली शुगर इंडस्ट्री से जनरेट की जाए तो कुल मिलाकर जो सस्ता होने के कारण लाभ होगा वो देश को 4500 करोड़ रुपए का तो लाभ होगा। 3500 मेगावाट बिजली का उत्पादन होगा और शुगर इंडस्ट्री को इस प्रोडक्शन के कारण बहुत बड़ा सहयोग मिलेगा। तो इन संशोधन के द्वारा इन 3 मुख्य बातों को करने के लिए हम इस सदन में आए।
मोशन मूव श्री पृथ्वी चौहान।
Sir, I stand to support this welcome amendment to the Sugar Development Fund Act. But, sir, the amendment to the Act has come very late. Sugar industry is facing a grave crisis. This demand for giving export subsidy has been there from the industry for a very long time. And the government had agreed to this suggestion But somehow this bill could not be brought before the parliament for last more than a year. And I think this is a criminal neglect by the government while industry is reeling under the burgeoning stocks of sugar. The minister said 180 lakh tons. I don't know whether that's a correct figure. I have a figure of 120 lakh tons of stock of sugar. It's a huge stock, and sugar mills, godowns are full. There's no place to keep sugar. Huge interest costs are being incurred, and so as you know, industry is now fast becoming sick. It's under the verge of collapse. So these mounting stocks have to be exported. Minister has said so. But sir, international prices are low and our prices are high. International sugar is subsidized very heavily, and the industry has been demanding some kind of subsidy. Transportation subsidy was one amount, one item. The other item had been lower interest rate for exporting units. That we are not still done. And the legislation that is being brought today has been delayed for a very long time. I would like to ask the minister, when you could bring an ordinance for POTO, why couldn't you bring an ordinance for Sugar Development Fund? I mean, the rules could have been modified. Now, there is also a suggestion that you will use Sugar Development Fund for reviving potentially CQ-NIT. Now, this could be done by modifying the rules. Why couldn't you do that? You're still contemplating that. So, what has been the genesis of the crisis? I'll come to the bill in a moment, but let me dwell for a little moment on the grave crisis that is facing the industry. The crisis is mounting stocks. So there has been a gradual increase in production from 1997-98 when we had a low year of 128 lakh ton. From that year, every year the production has gone up. In 98-99 it went up to 154 lakh tons. Then in 99-2000 we had 182 lakh tons, and last year 184 lakh tons. The production is gradually growing. What has been the consumption? Consumption also has been growing, but it's about 160 lakh tons. That means every year we are having an excess of about 20 to 25 lakh tons, and this is being added to our carryover stock. The carryover stock today has gone up from a level of 54 lakh tons in 97-98 up to a level of 120 lakh tons today. Almost. I like to clarify that. Could you confirm, is it 180? My figure is 120 lakh tons. The minister said 108 lakh. I like to be clarified. I like to be clear. If it is 180, it's very severely grave situation. But my information is the carryover stock today is about 120 lakh tons, which is about 75% of our requirement. It's incurring huge interest cost. It is depressing the prices, and it may cause farmers to shift away from sugarcane. One more factor has caused to this grave situation, and that was the import duty regime, the import tariff regime that this government allowed to persist in 98-99. So the import duty, as you know, under WTO tariff boundings could be as high as 150%. But till April 98, the duty was kept at 0%. Then it was gradually increased to 5%, then 20%, then 25%, then 40%, then 60%. Why couldn't you keep the duty high all along? Why it could not be done? It was because you wanted sugar to be imported. And sugar was imported from Pakistan, European Union. How much sugar was imported? In 98-99, 9 lakh ton sugar was imported. In 99-2000, 12 lakh ton of sugar was imported. This 21 lakh ton of unnecessary import of sugar, which your government permitted, carelessly permitted, is really has really caused this serious problem. Now, sir, there's also the delay in announcing export subsidy also has been an important reason, sir. So now, once we know what the situation of sugar industry is, I'll come to the amendments. These are good amendments. So the Sugar Development Fund Act was enacted in 1982 when we collected 14 rupees per quintal of sugarcane from the sugar cess, and that was credited to the Sugar Development Fund. And initially, it was for a grant for R&D project and loans for modernization, cane development, and for creating buffer stock. Now you are adding 3 more components to what Sugar Development Fund can be used for. So I'll take some time. So this is a very important subject, and particularly I come from Maharashtra.
True, but allotted time to your
Yes,
party is
I'll
only
just take a
15
few minutes, sir.
And there are 3 speakers.
Sir. So you are going to defray the expenses in transport subsidy. It is good, but it's not going to be enough. The second is, of course, you are allowing loans to be given for bagasse-based cogeneration of power, and also for ethanol and anhydrous alcohol production. It's all good thing. I also wish that you add environmental schemes. There is a serious problem of effluent from the sugar mills, and sugar mills have not been taking care of this problem. But if you add one more item later on, where environment schemes can also be undertaken in this sugar development scheme. So on export subsidy, I have a problem. It is possible that this export subsidy may be questioned in WTO, but I hope government will stand firm and not give in, because other countries are giving huge export subsidies. This is a very, very little small subsidy which must be continued, sir. I also plead for interest subsidy, and I also thank you for removing quantitative restrictions on export of sugar. It is a very strange situation that you already removed quantitative restrictions for import, but for export you had maintained QRs, sir. Those have been removed only last year, which is a good thing. Please do not reimpose any restriction on export of sugar. So on bagasse-based cogeneration, it's a very good idea. 3,500 megawatt is possible, potential is there. But I also plead with you that not only upgradation schemes, but new projects which come up should also be given a subsidy and loan from this fund. Not only upgradation product. And in future, please do not allow any sugar mill to come up which does not have cogeneration component to it. On the ethanol anhydrous alcohol, is also a good step. Upgradation of plants to manufacture ethanol should be welcomed. But I think Petroleum Ministry had delayed this decision for a very long time. We know Brazil has been using gasohol. Up to 25% of anhydrous alcohol and ethanol was mixed in petrol. We have only permitted 5% right now. I am told that without making any engine modification, up to 10% ethanol can be mixed. Please plead with the Petroleum Ministry to clarify the rules and do not change the rules. The excise duty structure should be frozen for all times to come. Because now if industry makes investment in anhydrous alcohol and ethanol, and tomorrow you change the rules, you impose heavy excise duty, change the pricing, change the molasses distribution order, and the whole industry collapses. Please do not do that. Now there is also a talk, you also talked about using Sugar Development Fund for reviving potentially sick units. Now you can do that under rules. There is no need to bring it under the legislation. When are you going to modify these rules? Have you decided about it or not? If you have decided, please modify the rules very urgently. So I'll just make few suggestions. You have not clarified the rate of interest that you will charge on these loans. It's going to be subsidized loans, cheap loans, but do not fix. Normally you fix the rate of interest at 6% in the rules, but I will plead with you, do not fix the rate, peg it to the prime lending rate. The interest rate is coming down. Reserve Bank announces the main prime lending rate from time to time. You peg it to that, you make it 3 or 4% less than the prime lending rate. Do not fix it at 6%. The second, sir, the sugar development work, if you look at the working of the Sugar Development Fund in the last 18 years, out of 2780 crores that has been collected, you have got 2,566 crores till last year credited to SDF. But only 1,428 crores of loans have been disbursed, and out of that, for research and development, you have only given 20 crores in last 18 years. Only 20 crores. Is that what the fund is for? And also like to be enlightened about the repayment scenario. These loans are given to cooperative sugar factories against state government guarantees. A lot of sugar factories are defaulted on these loans, and even the state government guarantees are not being repaid. What is the situation? Sir, as I said, sir, as you had agreed also, sugar industry is sick. Over 145 mills are sick today. Speedy implementation of futures exchange would be desirable. I think you have started that, but it will take some time. Mahajan committee, which was there about 2-3 years back, 1998, had made many suggestions. Please implement the recommendations of Mahajan committee in a time-bound manner. So Mahajan committee had recommended a sugar pricing board. Please consider that. No imported sugar should be allowed to come in the country. If needed, please increase the import duty up to the maximum ceiling of 150%. But do not repeat the scenario of 97 and 98 when 21 lakh ton sugar unnecessarily was imported just so that some commission could be earned and some traders could benefit. So there is a concern about quality. I'd like to know how many mills are opted for BIS certification, how many mills have got ISO 9000 certification under the sugarcane cess order. Some companies, some mills which are misgrading sugar, the inspectors have gone and caught them. How many mills have you punished so far? Sir, in the end, sir, I'd like to plead with you. Now the Sugar Development Fund is being used like a financial institution. You are going to certify whether your unit is potentially viable or not. You're going to give loans, you're going to charge interest, you're going to get repayment. You are entering into an area of a financial institution. Please consider, this is not a work which is to be done by a ministry, a department of the central government. This is a work for a financial institution. Please consider changing Sugar Development Fund into a Sugar Development Bank, which could be a subsidiary of NABARD. It could do the same thing again, but with specialized officers, not somebody sitting in Udyog Bhavan or Krishi Bhavan. He is not competent enough. If you say that Department of Sugar, Ministry of Food is competent to certify whether a unit is sick or not, then tomorrow, why not allow Department of Small Scale Industries to give loans to small scale industries, and why not allow industry minister to decide whether industry should be revived or not? This is a task for a financial institution. Please don't keep it with the ministry, sir. Sir, I conclude. In sugar industry is a very important industry which consists of 45 million cane growers. Over 2 million workers are employed. Their futures are bound to the sugar industry. This can be a major source of revenue for foreign exchange earning for the country. This can be a valuable source of alternate renewable energy source like Brazil. Huge amount of foreign exchange on imported petroleum can be saved. But today, the industry is sick and the verge of collapse. The industry may not be able to withstand the globalization pressure because of opening up our industry unless you act. And please do not take any decisions like allowing of import. We have suffered very heavily. What you did, we allowed 21 lakh tons of sugar to be imported. Please do not do that in future. Sir, with these words, I support the bill and once again plead to the minister. This industry is facing a grave crisis. Please look at it. Do all you can do. I made some suggestions. We can have a greater discussion later. Sir, these words I support. Conclude, sir. Thank you.
Shri Naren Mohan.
उपाध्यक्ष जी, मैं बधाई देना चाहूँगा शांता कुमार जी को। बधाई इसलिए देना चाहूँगा कि बहुत दिनों बाद देश में ऐसा एक मंत्री आया है जिसने शक्कर उद्योग को सही ढंग से समझने की कोशिश की है। बहुत दिनों बाद इस देश में 524 शक्कर मिलें हैं और उपसभापति जी 99 मिलें बंद हो चुकी हैं। 145 मिल्स ऐसी हैं जो बिल्कुल बंद होने की कगार पर हैं। ऐसी स्थिति में मंत्री जी आज शक्कर उद्योग को, चीनी उद्योग को अपने पैरों पर खड़ा करने की जो चेष्टा कर रहे हैं, मैं उन्हें बधाई देना चाहूँगा। चीनी विकास निधि का प्रयोग जिन बातों के लिए किया जा रहा है उसका तो स्पष्टीकरण मंत्री जी ने भी किया, मेरे दोस्त पृथ्वीराज चौहान जी ने भी किया, वो अपनी जगह है। लेकिन पुनरुद्धार और आधुनिकीकरण की जो आवश्यकता है, मंत्री जी आपके माध्यम से बताना चाहूँगा, उपाध्यक्ष के माध्यम से, ये तब होगा जबकि सस्ती ब्याज की दरों पर धन उपलब्ध कराया जाए। मेरा पहला प्रश्न आपसे यह है कि आप किन ब्याज की दरों पर, क्या वास्तव में सस्ती ब्याज की दरों पर आप धन उपलब्ध कराएंगे? कठिनाई यह है कि उत्तर प्रदेश, जहां से मैं आता हूं, और बिहार, जो अभी शक्कर का गढ़ हुआ करता था, आज दोनों राज्यों में शक्कर उद्योग चौपट हो चुका है, बिल्कुल चौपट। मंत्री जी आप इससे सहमत होंगे कि दोनों राज्य आज वहां का चीनी उद्योग रो रहा है। मंत्री जी, उत्तर प्रदेश में 19 मिलें बंद हो चुकी हैं और 30 मिलें बिल्कुल बंद होने वाली हैं। प्रश्न यह है कि आज बंद हो या कल बंद हो। बिहार की भी यही स्थिति है। आखिर इसे कैसे बचाएंगे? केवल आप समझते हैं कि चीनी विकास निधि से ये मिलें बचने वाली हूं, ये संभव नहीं है मंत्री जी, ये बिल्कुल भी संभव नहीं है। आपको उपाध्यक्ष जी, आपके माध्यम से मंत्री जी से कहना चाहूंगा कि यह तब संभव होगा जब गन्ने का जो मूल्य है वह राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर एक किया जाए। आज इसमें राजनीति की जा रही, चुनाव आता है, राज्य सरकारें दाम बढ़ा देती हैं गन्ने के, किसान का वोट मिल जाएगा। लेकिन यह एक अफीम की तरह है। 4.5 करोड़ देश के किसान चीनी मिल पर निर्भर कर रहे हैं, 22 लाख कर्मचारी निर्भर कर रहे हैं। उनकी दशा की ओर तो देखिए। हर बात में राजनीतिकीकरण। उत्तर प्रदेश में 107 रुपया क्विंटल, 107 रुपया क्विंटल, और तमिलनाडु में 70 रुपया क्विंटल। सारे देश में चीनी का भाव एक रहेगा। तमिलनाडु की सरकार सही रास्ते पर लगभग चल रही है, तो 70 रुपया क्विंटल गन्ने का क्या भाव है, और उत्तर प्रदेश में 107। परिणाम क्या हुआ? उत्तर प्रदेश की अधिकांश मिलें दिवालिया हो गई। यही हालत बिहार की है। हरियाणा में तो है 120 रुपया क्विंटल। यानी ये हो क्या रहा है इस देश में? क्या हम बिल्कुल शक्कर उद्योग को चौपट करने के लिए तुले हुए हैं? मंत्री जी कुछ करिए, अन्यथा वही स्थिति आने वाली है जो कि वस्त्र उद्योग की हो गई थी। इस देश के अधिकांश वस्त्र उद्योग मिलें बंद हो गई क्योंकि सरकार ने समय रहते काम नहीं किया। भारत एक कृषि प्रधान देश है। हमारा देश बहुत आसानी के साथ 500 लाख टन चीनी का उत्पादन कर सकता है, और कहीं अगर इतना उत्पादन हो जाए तो इस देश का किसान खुशहाल हो जाएगा। इस देश के किसानों की खुशहाली के लिए शक्कर उद्योग को बचाइए। चेष्टा ये हो रही है बहुराष्ट्रीय कंपनियां। उपाध्यक्ष जी आपके माध्यम से मंत्री जी से कहना चाहूंगा कि बहुराष्ट्रीय कंपनियां साजिश की तहत अपने शक्कर को भारत में भेज रही हैं। यही कुछ वर्ष पहले हुआ था, क्योंकि कुछ लोगों ने जो ऊंचे पदों पर बैठे थे उनको कोई दलाली चाहिए थी। पृथ्वीराज जी ने ठीक कहा और उन्होंने ऐसा कर दिया। इस देश में शक्कर के भंडार हैं 180 लाख टन। मैं पुनः दोहराता हूं, मंत्री जी काटें, 31 मार्च 2002 को 174.94 यानी 175 लाख टन शक्कर इस देश के पास थी 31 मार्च को। आज 180 लाख टन है। अब देश की जरूरत है 160 लाख टन की। ये शक्कर कहां जाएगी? इस शक्कर पर बैंक, जो बैंकों के गोदामों में है, 20% ब्याज, 15%, 17% ब्याज बैंक चार्ज कर रही है। शक्कर उत्पादन की लागत लगभग 13.5 रुपए किलो की है। यह उत्पादन लागत है उत्तर प्रदेश की। आखिर इसकी ओर कोई तो ध्यान देगा। प्रश्न यह है कि हम शक्कर उद्योग को क्या केवल राजनीतिज्ञों के हाथ में, सहकारी समितियों के हाथ में छोड़ देंगे, या सरकार कुछ एक राष्ट्रीय नीति बनाएगी? मैं मंत्री जी आपके माध्यम से मंत्री जी से जानना चाहूंगा कि शक्कर उद्योग को बचाने के लिए क्या कोई राष्ट्रीय नीति है उनकी? क्या वे कोई राष्ट्रीय नीति बनाना चाहते हैं? क्या उन्होंने शक्कर उद्योग से जुड़े हुए राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्रियों से अभी तक कोई सीधी बात की है? और नहीं की है तो आदरणीय उपाध्यक्ष जी आपके माध्यम से सुझाव देना चाहूंगा कि मंत्री महोदय यथाशीघ्र, जितनी जल्दी हो सके, उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार या अन्य जो शक्कर उद्योग से जुड़े हुए राज्य हैं उनके मुख्यमंत्रियों की बैठक को बुलाएं और एक राष्ट्रीय नीति बनाई जाए ये राजनीति ना की जाए। राजनीति करने से हमारे देश के बहुत से उद्योग नष्ट हो गए हैं, बहुत से उद्योग पनप नहीं पा रहे हैं। आप देखिए उपाध्यक्ष जी, कितना बड़ा दुर्भाग्य है कि बैंक शक्कर उद्योग को ऋण नहीं देना चाहते हैं। मंत्री जी जानते हैं इस बात को उपाध्यक्ष जी। यूटीआई ऋण नहीं देना चाहता, आईडीबीआई ऋण नहीं देना चाहता, आईएफसीआई कहता है कि हम लोन नहीं देंगे शुगर इंडस्ट्री। सिक है, बाकायदा लिखित सर्कुलर चला गया है कि शक्कर उद्योग को फाइनेंस ना किया जाए। बैंकों के सर्कुलर हैं, आईडीबीआई का सर्कुलर है, यूटीआई का सर्कुलर है। मंत्री जी इन सर्कुलरों को वापस कराइए। उपाध्यक्ष जी, मंत्री जी से कहिए, आपके माध्यम से निवेदन करूंगा कि वे वित्त मंत्री से बात करें और वित्त मंत्री से कहें यह अन्याय राष्ट्र के साथ होने वाला अन्याय है, किसानों के साथ किया जाने वाला अन्याय है, 22 लाख कर्मचारियों के साथ किया जाने वाला अन्याय है। यह अन्याय रोका जाए। वित्त मंत्रालय को चाहिए तो अविलंब हस्तक्षेप करे। इस्मा के लोग, इंडियन शुगर मिल एसोसिएशन के लोग कई बार वित्त मंत्री से मिल चुके हैं, लेकिन कोई नीति में परिवर्तन नहीं हुआ। बैंक आज भी कोई भी ऋण देने को लिए तैयार नहीं है। जो पुरानी लिमिट्स थी वही चल रही हैं। अभी मंत्री जी आप चाहते हैं कि चीनी विकास निधि से देश का शक्कर का निर्यात बढ़ जाए, एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ जाए। बढ़ सकता है। अभी तो आप मुश्किल से देश में शक्कर उत्पादन का 1%, उपाध्यक्ष जी हंसी आती है, केवल 1% आप निर्यात करते हैं, केवल 1%, और आपके शक्कर के भंडार बढ़ते जाते हैं। ये क्या हो रहा? आज हम चाहें तो कम से कम अपने देश में जितना शक्कर का उत्पादन होता है उसका 20% निर्यात कर सकते हैं। सही नीति तो बनाइए। आप क्या समझते हैं कि आपने ट्रांसपोर्ट सब्सिडी दे दी, उससे क्या शक्कर का निर्यात बढ़ जाएगा? ये आपकी खुशफहमी है, सरकार की खुशफहमी है। ट्रांसपोर्ट सब्सिडी से शक्कर का निर्यात बढ़ने वाला नहीं है। कुछ और करना होगा, जैसा कि आपने स्वयं कहा ब्राजील ने किया, जैसा कि आपने स्वयं कहा इंडोनेशिया कर रही है, थाईलैंड कर रहा है। अब तो बड़े बड़े लोग हैं, मॉरिशस कर रहा है। आज हम मॉरिशस ऐसे छोटे देश के सामने भी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजारों में टिक नहीं पा रहे हैं, बिल्कुल टिक नहीं पा रहे हैं। ये तो जो कुछ थोड़ी शक्कर की मिलें तटों पर हैं, जैसे महाराष्ट्र के तट पर हैं, वो कुछ थोड़ा बहुत एक्सपोर्ट कर रही हैं। ठीक है, आपने ट्रांसपोर्ट सब्सिडी दी है, उससे उत्तर प्रदेश के और बिहार की मिलें भी कुछ एक्सपोर्ट कर सकेंगी, पर कितना? सवाल यह है आपका लक्ष्य कितना है। अगर आपके देश के पास 180-190 लाख मैट्रिक टन शक्कर उत्पादन की आज के दिन क्षमता है, आज के दिन, तो क्या आप उसका 10% एक्सपोर्ट करना चाहेंगे? 19 लाख 20 लाख टन एक्सपोर्ट करना चाहेंगे? अभी तो आप लगभग 2 लाख टन एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। ये 2 लाख टन से क्या होगा? कम से कम 10% तो एक्सपोर्ट करिए। और अगर बायर्स हैं, अगर आप अंतरराष्ट्रीय बाजारों में प्रतिस्पर्धा में उतर सकें, अगर आप अंतरराष्ट्रीय प्रतिस्पर्धा में चीनी उद्योग को ला सकें, तो यह आपकी बहुत बड़ी सफलता होगी। मंत्री जी, आप कर सकते हैं, भारत सरकार ऐसा कर सकती है, आप में क्षमता है। मंत्री जी, आपने खाद्य मंत्रालय को लेकर के करके दिखा दिया कि किस तरह से अन्न का वितरण करके आपने भूखों को अन्न पहुंचाया है। 5 करोड़ लोगों को जो भूखे पेट सोते थे उनको आपने भोजन दिया है। आपके पास बुद्धि है, कौशल है, सब कुछ कर सकते हैं आप। लेकिन आपसे एक अनुरोध है उपाध्यक्ष जी, मंत्री जी से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगा कि नौकरशाही के दबाव में ना आए। उन्हें स्वयं निर्णय लेने होंगे, उन्हें स्वयं निर्णय लेने होंगे, तब कुछ बात बनेगी। अन्यथा शक्कर मिलें बंद होती चली जाएंगी, अन्यथा कोई भी समस्याओं का समाधान होने वाला नहीं है। हाँ, बगास से विद्युत का उत्पादन हो सकता है, लेकिन फिर राज्य सरकार भी तो प्रोत्साहन दें। मैं थोड़े 2-4 मिनट का समय और लूंगा उपाध्यक्ष जी। आप चाहते हैं, वास्तव में यदि आप चाहते हैं कि 3500 मेगावाट 3500 मेगावाट विद्युत का उत्पादन हो। अगर आप वास्तव में चाहते हैं इतना उत्पादन हो मंत्री जी, तो फिर आपको राज्य सरकारों से बात करनी चाहिए। ये राज्य सरकारें जिस तरह से मोलभाव कर रही हैं उससे कुछ भी नहीं होगा। चीनी विकास निधि द्वारा ऋण देने से भी विद्युत उत्पादन होने वाला नहीं है। बगास से बिजली तब बनेगी जब राज्य सरकारें ऐसा वास्तव में चाहें। और वहां भ्रष्टाचार है, वहां पक्षपात है, वहां नौकरशाही का हस्तक्षेप है, उससे कैसे बचाएंगे? इसीलिए मैं कहता हूं मंत्री जी, उपाध्यक्ष जी, आपके माध्यम से मंत्री जी से, कि उन्हें यथाशीघ्र एक राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन बुलाना चाहिए। उन्हें यथाशीघ्र राज्य के उन मुख्यमंत्रियों से सीधी बात करनी चाहिए और प्रधानमंत्री के माध्यम से बात करनी चाहिए, ताकि दबाव पड़ सके, ताकि चीनी उद्योग को बचाया जा सके, ताकि वो सपना जो इस देश के 4.5 करोड़ किसान देख रहे हैं उन्हें पूरा किया जा सके, ताकि उन्हें खुशहाल बनाया जा सके, ताकि 22 लाख श्रमिकों को वास्तव में अच्छा वेतन दिया जा सके। यह बहुत आवश्यक है। हम कैसे बचाएंगे इसको? आप चाहते हैं कि एथेनॉल सम्मिश्रित मोटर ईंधन बनने लगे। अब यहां हमारी जो आपस में अंतर मंत्रालय के बीच में वादा विवाद है, पत्राचार हो रहा है, आखिर इसमें इतने बड़े पत्राचार की आवश्यकता कहां है? ब्राजील में 25% एथेनॉल मिलाया जाता है और इसके लिए आप बैठ जाइए, संबंधित मंत्री बैठ जाएं, सचिव बैठ जाएं, एक दिन में निर्णय लीजिए। कौन सी बड़ी भारी बात है? देरी क्यों की जा रही है? कौन उत्तरदायी है इस देरी के? आज हजारों करोड़ रुपया जो देश का व्यय हो रहा है फालतू के, उसमें हम अकारण पेट्रोल को विदेशों से मंगाए जा रहे हैं, जबकि हमारे देश में एक क्षमता है, हम उसको करें। मैं उपाध्यक्ष जी आपका बड़ा कृतज्ञ हूं कि आपने मुझे समय दिया। मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूंगा कि भारत के चीनी उद्योग की बहुत दुर्दशा हो रही है, उसे बचा लीजिए। उपाध्यक्ष जी आप कृपा करके मंत्री जी को कहें, भारत सरकार से कहें कि इस उद्योग को बचाया जाए। इसमें किसानों का भविष्य निहित है, श्रमिकों का भविष्य निहित है, देश का भविष्य निहित है। मैं इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ आपका आभारी हूं कि आपने मुझे समय दिया।
श्री राम मोहन राव।
Vice Chairman, sir, for allowing me to speak on this piece of legislation. Though it is a small amendment, it is very important to make sugar mills viable. Now the sugar mills in the country are passing through a very difficult phase. We have more than 500 mills in the country and more than 50% are in cooperative sector. I welcome measures of granting loan to sugar factories or any other unit for bagasse-based cogeneration power projects, any hydrous alcohol or ethanol from alcohol, which is a bioproduct of sugarcane, for the viability of sugar mills. I also welcome for the revolutionary step taken by the Honorable Minister that expenditure incurred on transportation of sugar for the purpose of export would be met through the Sugar Development Fund. But the bill is silent as to what precautions the Minister has taken to avoid misuse of loans, which according to the bill is granted liberally. The bill provides loan facility only to sugar mills, but the farmer who is behind the product is left out. We all agree that if the mills are strong, it is only then the farmers are strong. If the mills are running under losses or on the verge of close down, how can the farmer get the price of his sugar cane? So our endeavor is that to strengthen the sugar mills and thereby the farmer. I request that some assistance to the sugarcane grower should also be given through Sugar Development Fund. The majority of the sugar mills in the country are having old and obsolete technology, and the need of the hour is to upgrade and bring the latest technology for optimum utilization of the capacity and to increase the production. I do not know whether the fund provide credit facility for modernization of sugar mills in the country? If not, I request the Honorable Minister to include this aspect also in the bill. The astonishing this is that though we can produce 100% power through bagasse-based co-generation power, at present we are able to generate only around 10%. Sir, of the 3,500 megawatts that can be produced, we are at present producing only about 210 megawatts of power. It is quite obnoxious. So this amendment definitely helps in increasing the power through co-generation power projects. One more point I would like to make here, sir, the new sugar mills have to give 15% sugar under levy. They have to give this quantity of sugar only after meeting sugar controller who issues the release order. Because of his delay in releasing the order, the new sugar mills have to suffer about, sir, 500 to 600 per quintal per month. My only suggestion is that the sugar controller should release his order without any delay, or the sugar mills should be allowed to deposit 15% of their levy sugar whenever they like without waiting for the order. The other point is the international prices of sugar are coming down. Now the rate has come down $205 from to $272. Of course, the government is giving subsidy to the tune of $10 per ton. It is not sufficient. When the other countries are giving exorbitant subsidies to the sugar mills in their countries, there is no point in not giving such subsidy in our sugar mills to compete the international level. Hence,
Please
I
conclude.
request that the subsidy should be increased to $50 per ton. Had there been a minor fluctuation in the international prices, we can understand. But when the rate is coming down drastically, there is every need to protect the small sugar mills and farmers. So these are some of the points which I thought that I should bring to the notice of the Honorable Minister for his consideration. With these words, I once again support the bill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Vijay Raghavan.
At a time, this industry is facing unprecedented crisis. Because of that, not only the mill owners, lakhs of farmers and millions of grain cutters and workers are facing acute problem in their livelihood. It was reported that the sugar dispatches from factories during the month of January 2002 stood at 11.74 lakh tons for internal consumption and 0.82 lakh tons for exports, as against 13.30 lakh tons for internal consumption and 1.39 lakh tons for export during the same month last season. The total offtake till January 2002 during the season 2001-2002 was 52.75 lakh tons for internal consumption and 2.80 lakh tons for export, as against 54.77 lakh tons for internal consumption and 3 lakh tons for export during the corresponding period last season. Sir, you see the closing stock of sugar as on 31/1/2002 was 150.77 lakh tons, as against 132.95 lakh tons on the same day last season. It means piles of sugar is in the godown, and our country is facing a very serious problem related to the issues. So now this is an attempt to save and safeguard the interest of those who are related to sugar industry. Here the first step is to generate power from the bagasse based on cogeneration. This will improve the viability of the sugar factories. That was mentioned here. I would like to appreciate the move from the minister, but for the time being, we are producing a very meager amount of power from using these resources. Therefore, how to strengthen this, how to revitalize the entire process, more technical assistance is needed, and more investment is also needed. So here it is not mentioned how we are gathering these more resources and technical know-how, and the existing know-how is not sufficient to produce that much of power using this infrastructure. Now regarding the second part of this bill, that is related to the using of molasses and alcohol for this, the positive use of ethanol. Here, some new issues are coming. This was a very positive step, and we are spending huge amount of foreign currency for importing oil from abroad, and we are spending huge amount for exploration of these oil resources in the sea and in other places. So now, this is an area which we have to use positively for using our own resources, and we can save valuable foreign currency. But we all supported this move from the government, the using of gasohol. But now some wrong signal is coming. This government, it was reported from newspaper that some assistance which we have announced for the using of gasohol is withheld. It was reported that the government was decided to withhold the notification of the concessional additional excise duty on motor spirit blended with ethanol more than 2 months after the announcement was made in the budget. That's a problem. Once this government announced this benefit for using the ethanol, then after 2 months, because of some compulsion, the government is withdrawing whatever concession which they have announced already. This kind of
conclude now.
Yes, this kind of issue should not be there. Sir, this is mainly because of the conflict of interest between these two ministries. One is regarding this sugar, and the other side regarding the chemical industry. So this the government has to intervene and to come with a solution to resolve the problem. And while discussing this matter, we have to think about the small scale industries also, who are functioning with the using the ethanol as its ethanol and alcohol for its functioning. So the small scale sector should be protected, but this aspect should be taken note of, and there should not be any conflict of interest regarding this issue. Thirdly, sir, while the minister was addressing and discussing about the problem, he mentioned that the matter of quality should be considered. So the quality of the sugar must be ensured. In order to increase the quality of the sugar, the government has to take steps to cover sugar and sugar products under the voluntary certificate of this Bureau of Indian Standards. This will help to establish the credibility of Indian sugar in the international market. That is what the minister also told, but that is not mentioning in this bill, and while he was addressing the House also, he did not mention that part. Again, sir, regarding the farmers, we have to think about the rationalization of grain price is an important prerequisite to safeguard the interest of the farmers before the sugar control. But so far the government has taken only half-hearted measures in this regard. The experiences of 1978 is to be taken note of. What happens in 78? How these farmers face the problems. So therefore such a situation should not be repeated. So the government has to be very much careful about the situation. Thirdly, sir, this productivity of the sugar cane also should be taken note of. Only one issue I want to add with this. While we are discussing about the problem of industries, we have to take a note of the problem of farmers, and these arrears are there for last 3-4 years. They are not getting the arrears, so something should be done seriously on the, to safeguard the interest of the farmers. Finally, sir, I would like to say about the problems of the workers who are dealing with the industry. You see the cane cutters, millions and millions, they are migrating people, but their interest, there is nothing to safeguard the interest of this downtrodden section. There is no enactment, there is no welfare measures for them, and nowadays the government decided to reduce the import duty of the sugarcane harvester machines, and they are importing hundreds of machines. So the workers are losing their job. In such a situation, to safeguard the interest of the workers, some measures should be taken from the side of the government. So the government has to take steps to safeguard the interest of the industry as well as the farmers, and also for the interest of the workers who are dealing with this industry. I hope, while concluding while deliberating the answer reply, I hope the Honorable Minister will address some of these issues which would be very much vital for the national assets. Thank you, sir.
Shri P.G. Narayanan.
The Sugar Development Act 1982 was enacted to provide for the financing of activities for development of sugar industry. The Act provides for Sugar Development Fund shall be applied by the central government for making loans for facilitating the rehabilitation and modernization of any unit thereof, and for defraying the expenditure for the purpose of building up and maintenance of buffer stock of sugar with a view to stabilizing the price of sugar. Sir, this present bill seeks to amend the Sugar Development Fund Act to provide that Sugar Development Fund may be also be applied by central government to grant any loans to any sugar factory or unit thereof to Bakassi based cogeneration power projects and production of anhydrous alcohol and ethanol from alcohol with a view to improving their viability, and for defraying from Sugar Development Fund the expenditure on internal transport and freight charges to the sugar factories and export shipment of sugar with a view to promoting